Hey, I'm Daniel and welcome back to another Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era video. Today we're taking a closer look at the deluxe components, the premium health chips, drawbags, adventure inventory folio, dice tray, blacksmith pack and the playmat. I'll share my honest thoughts on whether these upgrades are worth it and how they compare to the standard components you get with the base game. Just so you know, I played over 200 hours using these components before making this video, so this isn't just a first impression review. And for full transparency, I purchased all of those components myself, so this is not a sponsored video. And now let's dive in. So first, let's talk about the premium health chips. They cost $40 or 35 euros or about £30 UK. The pack comes in this box and it includes 90 chips, 80 regular health chips and 10 white chips that represent 5 health each. Here is how they look compared to the standard health chip that comes with the base game. And well, there are two main differences. First is the look. As you can clearly see, the premium chips have a darker red color and this printed symbol in the middle. And the second difference, which you can't see, is the weight. These premium chips are much heavier. In fact, they're the exact same weight and feel as the enemy and adventure chips. And the standard health chips, by contrast, are made of much lighter plastic. Keep in mind that the premium health chips are intended to replace the standard one, which means you won't be able to store both sets in the core box. So you'll need to store your standard health chips elsewhere. Now, before sharing my opinion, let's address the elephant in the room, and that is the price. As I mentioned, the pack costs $40. Now, I'm going to avoid calling that expensive or cheap, because those terms are pretty highly subjective, but for context, you can buy another board game for this price, or maybe even two. Obviously not something as big as TESBOTC, but something like Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, for example. Or if we stick to Chip Theory's own catalog, for $40 you can buy a copy of 20 Strong Deck, or Dragons of Stone with 2 expansions. And again, to be fair, these are pretty small games in terms of scope, but nevertheless, they are full-fledged standalone games that you can get for the same price as these premium health chips. So what I think about these premium health chips? Honestly, I think these chips are amazing and almost a must-have. And frankly, it pains me to say that, because it means that the burst version of the game kind of requires this upgrade. And honestly, I wish these chips came in the core box. Even if that bumped up the base price a bit, it's likely would still have been cheaper than buying them separately. But well, all in all, I think these are fantastic chips and are almost essential for the proper tactile experience. I do wish they were slightly cheaper though, but I also understand why they aren't. Now let's talk about the premium drawbags, priced at $40 or roughly 35 euros or £30 UK. For comparison, here are the regular drawbags, one for level 1 to 5 enemies, one for level 10 to 20 enemies, and one for the skill tokens. These bags are all the same size and their measurements are roughly 20 cm by 70 cm. And now here are the premium drawbags. There are just 2 of them, one for level 1 and 5 enemies and one for level 10 to 20 enemies. And they measure roughly 70 by 14 centimeters, so they are slightly shorter but much wider. And well, there are 3 main differences between the standard and the premium bags. The first is obvious, the size. As you can tell, the premium ones are much bigger and that makes them way easier to use and mix the chips inside. I have fairly small hand and even I find it difficult to draw enemies from the standard bags, to be honest. With the premium ones though, no problem at all. I imagine that for people with larger hands, this difference is even more noticeable. The second difference is the shape, how these bags are stitched. As you can see, the premium drawbags have this proper bottom part, which makes them stand upright on the table, while the standard bags just lay flat even with the enemy chips inside. And honestly, even though this difference is pretty subtle, I find this quite a big quality of life improvements for the gaming experience, so I like the way the premium drawbags stand on the table much better. And lastly, as you can see, these premium drawbags are double layered, which makes them quite more sturdy. Even though the cloth material is not as soft and on the regular drawbags, I still much prefer this one. So what do I think? I think they're awesome. They are easy to use, take up less space because they stand upright and just feel better overall. My only critique is that I wish this set included a third, smaller bag for the skill tokens, with the same build quality and upright shape but in a smaller form factor. I think that would have been a great addition, especially considering the price. Now let's talk about the Adventurer inventory set, which includes 4 folios for the price of $60 or roughly 52 euros or £45 UK. Each folio comes in a different color, red, blue, green and brown, matching the adventurer mats, which is a nice touch. As far as I'm aware, they're made from the artificial leather and have an embossed Elder Scrolls logo on the front, which looks pretty neat too. Each folio holds a race sheet in the front slot and a class sheet in the back. and inside there are multiple sheets for the skill lines and item cards with plenty of extra included. And personally, here's how I use them. I put the race sheet in the front. For example, if I'm playing a female high elf, I'll slot the sheet this way. Then I keep one item sheet for my equipped items for ready slots as per the rules, and I like to group weapons and armor on separate sides if I happen to have these types of items. Next, I add a couple of skill line sheets, though honestly I've memorized most of the skill dice by now, but just for demonstration purposes I've slotted a few here. Then there is a second item sheet for cards in the pack, and finally the class sheet goes in the back facing up, so in this case it's a novice sorcerer. As for the extra sheets, since each folio comes with more than we need, we moved all the spare ones into fourth folio, which we don't use, so it basically becomes our storage folio. Now, before I share my full opinion, I think it's fair to break this into two parts: use during gameplay and use for storage between sessions. So in my experience, during gameplay, those folios are okay. I wish I could rate them higher, but sometimes it's easy to forget about the items inside, and occasionally it's slightly awkward having your race or class sheet tucked away, especially if you need to place some tokens on it, like the Necromancer's Necrosis tokens. That said, they still work quite well, and I genuinely can't think of a better way to keep things organized while also saving table space. So overall, thumbs up with just small caveats. Now for the storage use though, I think these are a must. Let's just have a look at a typical scenario where you need to save your progress after completing the session. Luckily, we have these awesome plastic trays that can save your adventure mat, including all of your skills, which is great, but look at all these sheets and item cards, and there is simply no space for them at all. I guess you could try tucking them underneath the mat, but that's quite awkward and far from ideal to say the least. And perhaps if you're lucky enough to have a dedicated gaming room or a table that you can leave set up on, you might not need these photos, but for everyone else who needs to pack things away, I'd say they are essential. Just one important note: these folios don't really fit into the core box. I guess technically you can squeeze them in, but the metal studs can damage the box and other components. So I would recommend keeping them outside the core box, and personally I store them in just the original box where they came from, and just look at those dents. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm keeping them away from the core box. Overall, I think this product holds its value, and it does help to keep the game more organized, which I appreciate a lot. So thumbs up for that. Next we've got the Blacksmith Pack. It replaces the plastic character mat pack with metal ones, and also upgrades the round counter die and the first player token. The pack costs $20 or roughly 17 euros or 15 pounds UK, and here is what it looks like. For comparison, here are all the standard components side by side with their upgraded versions. I think the most noticeable upgrade is the round counter. It is much heavier than the plastic one, and it has a nice texture that makes it easy and more satisfying to turn. The metal packs are also quite nice. They're shiny and slightly heavier, though functionally they are exactly the same as the standard ones. The first player token though, it's a bit odd. I would say it's arguably less practical than the standard chip. Kind of bulky and not quite easy to use, but I think this one is more like a collector's item rather than a gameplay upgrade. Overall, I would say this pack is pretty nice, but definitely the least essential of all the deluxe upgrades. If you're only picking one or two upgrades, I'd recommend the health chips, drawbags or the folios first, and only go for the Blacksmith Pack if you already got the others and still want a little bit of extra flair. It's certainly nice, but frankly completely unnecessary. Now let's take a look at the dice tray. This one technically is a standalone item, not quite a replacement or an upgrade, but it's still listed in the Elder Scrolls Extras section on the Chip Theory's website, so I thought I'd cover it as well. It costs $18 or roughly 16 euros or 14 pounds UK. The outside is made of a synthetic leather, and the inside is embossed with the Elder Scrolls logo. When flat, it measures roughly 30 by 30 centimeters, and when snapped together, it's about 24 by 24 centimeters. And speaking of the tray's size, I must admit that by looking at the pictures and the videos of other people using this tray, I thought at first that it would be too large for my taste and my table. But after using it for a while now, I've definitely changed my mind. I think this size is actually great. There is enough space to actually roll the dice and not just drop them, and it feels smooth and satisfying to use. And I also really like that it's flat bottomed, because a lot of other dice tray they're kind of bowl shaped, which I'm not a huge fan of, but this one feels really clean and practical. And overall, I think this tray is fantastic. It looks great, it feels great, and has the right balance of size and style. And I'm honestly considering picking up a second or maybe even a third one, just because it's so good and can be used with plenty of other games too. And finally, we've got the big one, the official playmat, which costs $85 or roughly 75 euros or 63 pounds UK. And oh boys, this mat is huge. In fact, it's so big so I can't even film it properly in my usual setup. Its measurements are 160 centimeters long and 90 centimeters wide, and its weight is about 3 kilos. One side of this mat has printed placements for all game components, and it also comes with a reference sheet showing all the suggested layout, and the other side has a simple border and a large Elder Scrolls logo in the center. Keep in mind that the art style includes an intentional worn effect, which I personally like, but I've seen a few people question that design choice, so I thought it was worth mentioning. The playmat also comes with a carrying and storage bag. I've never owned a playmat this size before, so I'm not sure how rare that is, but I've heard others say it's pretty uncommon to get a bag included. So thumbs up to Cheap Theory Games for that, I really appreciate it. Now, I don't have a dedicated gaming table, so I keep the mat rolled in its bag and bring it out for every session. But despite being stored rolled, it lays completely flat on the table thanks to its weight and thickness, and I think that's awesome. Overall, I think this mat is amazing. It has a fantastic quality, and its muted dark color makes the components look even more vibrant and pop. But that being said, it's also completely optional. Do you need it? And honestly, probably not. But if the price doesn't scare you off and you're the kind of player who loves an immersive setup, I think you'll enjoy having it. And that's a wrap of this Deluxe Components review. Hopefully this helps you decide whether these upgrades are worth it for your own setup. And if you found it helpful, liking the video and subscribing really helps the channel grow, and I would appreciate it. And if you would like to support the channel in a more direct way, you can do this over on Patreon, and again, this means a lot to me. And well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.